Get your hands off me." The scream shattered my peaceful Saturday evening. I was in my backyard setting up for a barbecue when I heard my dinner guest crash to the pavement in my driveway. The HOA security guards I paid to protect my neighborhood were standing over her like predators. They thought they were teaching a lesson to a stranger who didn't belong. They had no idea they had just assaulted the most powerful prosecutor in the state. What you're about to see isn't just a story about a bad HOA. It's about what happens when petty tyrants pick a fight with the one person who can burn their entire kingdom to the ground. It was supposed to be a perfect evening. I'm a successful architect, and I'd worked hard for this life. The beautiful home in Maplewood, the respect of my neighbors, the sense of order. Tonight was a celebration, a small dinner party for my colleagues. The star guest was Tracy Williams, a brilliant legal consultant who'd recently joined our firm. She was sharp, professional, and had an almost supernatural calm during heated negotiations. I was excited for everyone to meet her. She called to say she was running about 30 minutes late. "No problem at all," I told her. "Everyone's eager to meet the woman who's been revolutionizing our contract work." I heard a hint of amusement in her voice as she replied, "This evening should be quite educational." I had no idea how true that was. As I went inside, I saw it. The white SUV of Maplewood Security parked at the end of my driveway. The guard, a thick-set man I'd later know as Morrison, was watching my house. Not just glancing, but watching, with an intensity that felt wrong. I tried to shrug it off. They were just being vigilant, right? That's what we paid them for. But the feeling lingered, a tiny crack in my perfect evening. That feeling you get right before the earthquake hits. I went back to the grill, convinced it was nothing. I didn't know that in our quiet, respectable neighborhood a trap was being set, and my guest was about to walk right into it. I'm truly glad you're here to follow this journey with me. This moment was the turning point, and sharing it with you all means a lot. If you're feeling the injustice of this situation right now, letting me know with a quick tap of the like button really helps tell this story to more people. And to ensure you're with us for the moment justice is finally served, consider joining this community so you don't miss what's coming next. Now back to the story. At 7:30 sharp, Tracy's black sedan pulled into my driveway. I watched through the window as she stepped out, confident, professional, every inch the legal powerhouse I knew. She paused to check the house number on her phone, a completely normal gesture. But that's when three figures emerged from the shadows. The HOA security guards. Their leader, Morrison, moved to intercept her before she'd taken 5 steps. His voice boomed across my yard. "Ma'am, I need to see identification." Tracy was clearly confused. "I'm sorry. I'm here for Michael Thompson's dinner party. I was invited." Morrison stepped closer, invading her space with practiced intimidation. "That's the problem. Your name isn't on our approved guest registry. For all we know, you're a real estate spy." It was absurd, but I could see this was a calculated power play. Tracy tried to step around him. "This is ridiculous. Michael is expecting me. Stop right there." Morrison's shout was a whip crack. He grabbed her arm. When she tried to pull away, he yanked her backward with deliberate violence. Tracy lost her balance and fell hard onto the concrete driveway. The sound of her body hitting the pavement was sickening. Her purse flew open, scattering its contents in a humiliating display. For a moment that stretched into an eternity, Tracy Williams, my dinner guest, lay on my driveway while 3 grown men stood over her. Then Morrison delivered the line that would destroy his life. "Maybe crawling will teach you some respect." I exploded out my front door. "What the hell are you doing?" "Get away from her!" Morrison whirled to face me, his hand on his radio. "Stay back, Thompson, or you'll join her on the pavement. This is official HOA business." I ignored him and knelt beside Tracy. But her reaction was strange. There was no fear, just a cold, terrifying calm. As she stood, brushing herself off, she met Morrison's gaze. She asked him for his full name. "Jake Morrison, head of security," he puffed, proud. She picked up a scattered item from her purse, a leather credential case, and gave him a smile that was the most chilling thing I'd ever seen. It was the smile of someone who knew exactly what cards they held and was just waiting to play them. "Thank you for inviting me, Michael," she said, walking back to her car. "This evening has been very educational indeed." The next morning, I walked into the HOA office ready for a fight. I was met by Margaret Walsh, the HOA president. She carried herself like a queen, her smile dripping with condescension. "I assume this is about last night's security incident," she began, not even offering a handshake. "Security incident?" My blood began to boil. "Your guards assaulted my guest. I want them fired and a public apology." Margaret's smile didn't waver. She opened a thick binder. "Mr. Thompson, our security personnel performed their duties exactly as outlined. What you perceived as assault was necessary security screening of an unregistered individual exhibiting behavior consistent with real estate espionage." The gaslighting was breathtaking. "She got out of her car and walked to my door," I said, my voice rising. Margaret pointed to a line of text. "According to updated protocols, any unregistered guest arriving after dark constitutes a potential security threat. You signed the agreement." I told her I'd never seen these new rules. "Perhaps you should check your spam folder," she sneered. My head was spinning. The rules were a labyrinth of legal jargon designed to be impossible to understand. I told her I was filing criminal charges and a civil lawsuit. Margaret laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Oh, Mr. Thompson, you really don't understand." She pressed a button on her desk. An assistant brought in another folder labeled Litigation Defense Protocols. She slid a business card across the desk. "We retain one of the state's top litigation firms. A court battle will cost you around $75,000, assuming you can even find an attorney to take your case." The room felt like it was shrinking. They had turned harassment into a science, complete with legal armor. "Alternatively," she said, her voice mock sympathetic, "you could pay the $1,500 in fines for hosting an unregistered guest and interfering with security. Think of it as a learning experience. I was being blackmailed for an assault that happened in my own driveway. I walked out of that office defeated, my faith in justice shaken. The system was rigged, but Margaret had made one fatal error. She assumed I was alone in this fight. As I sat in my car, my phone rang. It was Tracy. "How did it go?" she asked. I told her everything. There was a long pause on the line. Then she said, "Michael, don't worry, and don't pay those fines. The opportunity for them to make this right has officially expired." I took Tracy's advice and met with a lawyer, Robert Miller. He looked weary, like a man who'd seen this story play out too many times. He told me the hard truth. HOA cases are nearly impossible to win. They have deep pockets, and judges are tired of them. He'd handled 14 similar cases. 12 settled for peanuts, 1 was dismissed, and 1 was still stuck in court after 3 years. The cost to fight? Up to $80,000, win or lose. The feeling of helplessness was crushing, but then Miller paused. "There is one thing that bothers me," he said. "Your guest's reaction. She was too calm, almost professional." Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. It was Tracy. "Michael, are you available to meet at my office this afternoon?" Her voice was crisp, but with an undercurrent of authority I'd never heard before. "Your office? I thought you worked from home." "Not my consulting office," she clarified. "My main office. Can you be at 100 Government Plaza at 3, 15th floor?" The line went dead. I stared at my phone. Miller's eyes had sharpened. "Government Plaza? The federal building?" he asked. I told him Tracy was a legal consultant. The words felt hollow even as I said them. Tracy's encyclopedic knowledge of municipal law, her cool demeanor in a crisis. It was all starting to click into place. Miller was already typing furiously at his computer. "Tracy Williams, legal consultant." He frowned. "That's curious. There are several attorneys with that name, but none listed as independent consultants in this area." However, his eyes went wide. "Oh my. What? What did you find?" Miller turned the monitor toward me. It was an official government website, and there, under a professional headshot, was Tracy's name. Below it, a title that made the world tilt on its axis. Tracy Elizabeth Williams, District Attorney, Eastern District. The words echoed in my skull. The District Attorney, the top prosecutor for our entire region, the person with the power to bring federal criminal charges. Miller whistled, a low, stunned sound. "Mr. Thompson," he said, the weariness gone from his voice, replaced by electric excitement. "If that's the woman who was assaulted in your driveway, then Jake Morrison and his security team didn't just assault a dinner guest. They committed a felony against one of the most powerful law enforcement officials in the state. This isn't a civil case anymore. This is a federal case. The emergency HOA meeting was packed. Over 100 residents filled the community center, sensing something big was about to happen. Margaret Walsh stood at the podium, flanked by Morrison and his guards, spinning her heroic tale. "Thanks to the vigilance of our trained personnel," she declared, "a potential threat was neutralized." The lies were so smooth, I almost doubted my own memory. But I knew what was coming. Just as she finished her sentence, the main doors burst open. It was Tracy. She entered not as a guest, but as a force of nature, flanked by 4 federal investigators. The air in the room went from nervous to electric. "Security!" Margaret shrieked, her voice cracking. "Remove these individuals!" But Morrison had frozen. His face cycled through confusion to recognition, to the bone-deep terror of a man realizing he's just walked off a cliff. Tracy strode to the front, held up a gold badge, and announced, "I am District Attorney Tracy Williams. Under an active investigation, this meeting falls within federal purview. Stand down." Absolute silence. Then Morrison stammered, the blood draining from his face. "Wait, that's the woman from... Oh, God. We assaulted the district attorney." A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Phones came out, recording everything. One of Tracy's investigators wheeled in a large monitor. The 4K video of the assault played for everyone to see. The grab, the fall, the sickening thud. The audio was crystal clear. "Maybe crawling will teach you some respect." The crowd erupted in outrage. Morrison collapsed into a chair, sobbing, "Turn it off! I was just following orders." But Tracy wasn't finished. "This video documents multiple federal crimes," her voice cut through the chaos. "But our investigation has uncovered a pattern of civil rights. Violations affecting your entire community." Another screen displayed a web of fraudulent fines and phantom security contracts. "Jake Morrison," Tracy's voice boomed with federal authority, "you are under arrest for assault on a federal officer." The handcuffs clicked shut. The crowd roared with applause. As Morrison was led away in tears, his empire of petty tyranny destroyed in real time, I knew this was justice. Margaret tried to slip away, but an investigator blocked her path. "Mrs. Walsh," he said calmly, "we have some questions about these financial irregularities." Morrison's arrest was just the beginning. The takedown was glorious, but we were about to discover that his petty cruelty was just a symptom of a much deeper disease. The investigation was peeling back the polished surface of our community to reveal a multi-million-dollar criminal enterprise hiding in plain sight. Morrison was just the first domino. The real fight was just getting started. If you want to see what happens when the full weight of the federal government comes down on this corrupt organization, make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on. You won't believe how deep this conspiracy goes.